The old folks along the Cumberland always say the river remembers. It remembers footsteps on the old wooden bridge. It remembers voices that once whispered through the Appalachian valleys. And some nights, when the fog drifts low enough, they swear it remembers the dead. My mother was just a young woman then, barely in her 20s, living in a tiny mountain town pressed between rolling hills and the deep, slow bend of the Cumberland River. Back then the place felt untouched, almost suspended in time, with clapboard houses, dirt roads, and forests of red maple that seemed to swallow the light whenever dusk came early. And somewhere in those woods grew a friendship strong enough to survive anything. Or so she thought. Her closest friend was Mary Vance, a girl born into hardship, raised without the soft cushioning of family. Mary's parents died before she reached her teens, leaving her to navigate the world on her own. Yet Mary had survived, resilient, bright-eyed, quick to laugh even when life seemed unfair. My mother used to say that Mary carried the scent of wild Appalachian wind in her hair, stubborn, free, impossible to tame. They were inseparable through childhood. Two girls walking the same rugged paths, playing beneath the same blazing autumn leaves, sharing the same secrets in the glow of oil lamps when storms rattled the hillsides. But that kind of childhood, the kind rooted in innocence, never lasts long in a place like Appalachia. At 18, Mary married a man from across the river, in a rugged little settlement called Rockford Hollow. The two towns were close in distance but worlds apart in spirit. To reach Rockford Hollow, you had to cross a long wooden bridge that creaked under the slightest weight, then follow a winding mountain road carved between the dark, breathing trees. After Mary married, my mother didn't see her as often. Life on opposite sides of the river had a way of pulling people apart. But still, the bond remained. Love like theirs didn't just fade, not even after death. Mary had her first child almost a year after the wedding. My mother was pregnant around that time too. Both of them young Appalachian women trying to build families of their own. Then Mary became pregnant again, about 2 years later. To support the growing family, her husband's relatives gave the couple a small wooden house, a weather-beaten cabin standing lonely beside a vast stretch of dry grass and cornfields. A place where the wind howled differently, where nights grew quieter than they should have been, where shadows clung to the edges of the porch a bit too long. Nobody thought much of it then. But later, that cabin would become the center of every whispered tale in Rockford Hollow. Then came the morning everything changed. My mother remembers the knock on her door. How she opened it expecting a neighbor, maybe a relative, anything ordinary. But instead, she found a trembling young boy from Rockford Hollow, mud-stained and shaking like he'd run the entire mountain road. He spoke only 3 words. "Mary is gone." My mother said the world fell silent in that moment. No birds, no breeze, just the echo of that sentence bouncing off the walls of her heart. She didn't wait. She threw on her coat, tied her boots, and rushed toward the mountain pass, crossing the one-lane road that clung to the hillside, then the long wooden bridge trembling beneath her feet, the Cumberland rolling black and slow beneath her. Every step felt wrong. Every breath felt heavy, as if something in the valley itself was grieving. When she reached the cabin, the air was cold, unnaturally still. Rockford Hollow was a small town, but that day the silence stretched wider than the mountains. They told her what happened, that Mary had risen late, still weak from giving birth, that her husband had meant to cook breakfast. He always did when she was recovering, but he forgot that morning, that he left early to work the cornfields, that when he came home near noon, the house was quiet, too quiet, and that Mary was already gone. Gone from choking on a lump of cold rice, swollen, heavy, lodged deep in her throat. My mother cried. Not the loud kind of cry. The shaking, breathless kind that comes when grief hits too fast, too cruelly. The town mourned. The preacher prayed. And everyone said the same thing. What a tragedy. What a shame. She left behind 2 babies. Lord, have mercy. But Appalachia is a land that sees more than what's on the surface. And the people living in its valleys? They hear things. They feel things. Sometimes, they witness things. So when whispers began spreading through Rockford Hollow weeks after the burial, whispers that Mary's spirit lingered near the treeline, near the cornfields, along the riverbank, nobody dismissed them. Not really. Some said they felt a woman's presence passing behind them when walking home at night. Some claimed they heard soft humming coming from the woods. Others swore they saw a pale figure standing on the far side of the wooden bridge, barefoot, unmoving, watching. And my mother, she didn't know it yet. But Mary was coming for her too. Not to talk, not to reminisce, but to pull her somewhere she should never go. They say the dead don't cross rivers easily. That water, especially river water, breaks the tether between this world and the next. But the Cumberland is old, older than the towns along its banks. And old rivers have their own rules. So when the whispers about Mary spread through Rockford Hollow, my mother didn't believe them at first. She thought grief was making people imaginative, turning shadows into spirits and wind into voices. She was wrong. It started one night after a long day of rain. The kind of Appalachian rain that makes the hills groan and the cabin roofs creak. My mother was asleep, heavy with exhaustion, when she suddenly found herself standing on a dirt road she knew well, the old neighborhood where she and Mary spent their childhood. Everything looked unchanged. The same faded houses, the same rusted mailboxes, the same tall maples swaying overhead. But the silence felt hollow. Then she saw her. Mary, not the Mary from the funeral, not the Mary pale and cold in the coffin, but Mary as she used to be, young, smiling, full of life. Her hair was braided the way she always wore it when they were teenagers. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Come on," she said. "Let's go. I found someplace fun." Her voice sounded exactly the same. Warm, familiar, comforting. My mother took a step toward her, almost without thinking. But as soon as her foot lifted, something inside her clenched tight, a cold jolt of memory. Mary was dead, and the realization cracked the dream open like lightning splitting the sky. My mother stopped. She shook her head. She whispered, "You're not supposed to be here." Mary's smile faltered, just slightly, as if she didn't understand. And then, the dream collapsed into darkness. My mother woke up gasping, her nightgown damp with sweat. The storm outside had faded, but the air in her room felt colder than it should have been, almost as if someone had just left. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. Weeks passed. The memory of the dream lingered, but she tried to bury it. People dream of the dead all the time, she told herself. It was normal, natural. But grief dreams don't follow you, and they don't change. Mary did. Nearly a year after the first dream, the second one came. My mother found herself standing on the porch of a wooden house, A simple Appalachian cabin with sagging planks and a rocking chair half broken at the joints. She recognized it instantly. It was Mary's house. The one by the dry grass and cornfields. The place where she died. A thin mist curled around the porch posts. The air smelled like damp wood and something faintly sour, like old milk left in a warm room. And there, lying on a narrow wooden bench, was Mary. Her hair was loose this time, her face pale, her body thin, almost too fragile for the world around her. But she was smiling, smiling the way someone does when they know a secret. "You came," she whispered. My mother didn't answer. Her throat felt tight, like something heavy was pressing on it. Mary sat up slowly. Her movements were stiff, as if her joints had forgotten how to bend. But her eyes were alive. "Walk with me," she said. "Just a while." She reached out a hand, thin, trembling, but inviting. My mother took a step back. "No, Mary, I can't." For a split second Mary's face froze. Then something inside her cracked. The smile vanished. Her eyes darkened. Her skin tightened over her bones as if sucked inward by some unseen force. And then, the eyes went completely black. Hollow, bottomless, like open wells beneath the mountains. Before my mother could scream, Mary lunged, fast, impossible, inhuman. She pinned my mother to the floorboards of the dream porch, her face inches away, her breath cold as river water. "Come with me," Mary hissed, her voice no longer like a friend's. It was layered, doubled, as if something else was speaking underneath. My mother kicked, clawed, fought. She felt weight, real weight, on her chest. The pressure grew stronger and stronger until the dream shattered. She woke up choking, her voice hoarse, her heart slamming against her ribs. The blankets were twisted around her as though someone had tried to drag her out of bed. She jumped up, turned on the lamp, and scanned the room. Nothing, just shadows. But the air felt wrong again, like it had been disturbed. After that night, my mother didn't tell a soul. Not her husband, not her siblings, not the neighbors. But something strange happened across the river around that time. Rumor had it that Mary's husband had invited a preacher, one of those backwoods spiritual men who mixed scripture with old Appalachian rituals, to come and bind the wandering spirit. People in the hollow whispered that they'd heard chanting coming from the Vance property. Strange words, old mountain prayers, and something like a woman crying behind the barn. By the next morning, the sounds were gone. And for nearly a year, Mary didn't appear again. Not in dreams. Not in shadows. Not in whispers. It was as if she'd been pulled back, locked away in some place between the living world and the river fog. But the dead don't stay bound forever. Especially not the ones who feel they've been wronged. For almost a full year, nothing happened. No dreams. No shadowy figure lingering at the edge of the bed. No soft footsteps echoing in the hall at night. Just silence. A silence so complete, so heavy. My mother began to think the preacher's ritual had worked, that whatever held Mary to this world had finally been severed. But Appalachia has a way of hiding storms behind quiet skies. And the dead, when bound against their will, don't rest. They wait. They claw. They listen for cracks in their cage. And one night, the cage finally broke. It started without warning. My mother fell asleep easily that evening, exhausted after tending to the house and her young children. She remembered nothing unusual about that night. No strange noises, no sudden coldness, no flickering lights. Just the hum of crickets outside and the sigh of the wind rolling over the hills. Then, the dream began. She found herself walking down a narrow old street, one she knew too well. Their childhood neighborhood. The place where she and Mary had shared secrets under porch lights and giggled past curfew. Only this time, the street looked empty, deserted, wrong. The houses stood crooked, like they'd aged a century overnight. The maples overhead had lost all their leaves, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. And the sky hung low and colorless, like a sheet of ash stretched across the mountains. My mother walked slowly, feeling dread coil in her stomach. Then she saw her, Mary, standing in the middle of the street, completely naked. Her body was shockingly thin, the ribs jutting out harsh beneath pale skin. Purple bruises covered her arms. Deep, raw welts, like lash marks, crossed her back and sides. And from some of them, blood trickled slowly, thick and dark. My mother froze. Mary lifted her head. Her eyes, once soft, once alive, were swollen with tears. "They hurt me," she whispered. Her voice cracked like dry wood splitting. "They held me there." My mother couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The sight of Mary, the suffering carved into her body, stabbed through her like a knife. Mary took a trembling step forward. "They beat me when I tried to leave." Another step. "They locked me away, kept me from my babies." Her voice broke into sobs. She wrapped her arms around herself, shivering violently. "I miss them," she whimpered. "I miss them so much." My mother finally forced out a whisper. "Mary, what happened to you?" Mary lifted her bruised face. "That man," she said, "that preacher, he bound me, held me in that place beneath the earth. His prayers cut my skin. His ropes burned my hands. They trapped me in the dark. For months and months." Her voice thinned into a trembling moan. Then, suddenly, she stopped crying. She looked up. Her expression changed. Softness faded. Sorrow drained away. In its place, something cold grew. Something purposeful. "I'm not there anymore," she said quietly. "I escaped." My mother felt the dream shift, like a wind stirring dead leaves. Why did you come to me?" she asked. Mary stepped closer, her face inches away, and for the first time, she smiled. A fragile, heartbreaking smile. "Because I'm sorry." My mother blinked. "Sorry? For what?" "For what I tried to do. For trying to take you with me. I was lost then. I didn't know what was happening. I only wanted someone with me in that darkness." She shook her head weakly. "But I don't want you anymore." Something in the way she said it made cold crawl down my mother's spine. Mary looked over her shoulder, toward the direction of the river, though no river was visible in the dream. "I'm only here," she whispered. "For one thing." My mother whispered. "What?" Mary's eyes filled again, but this time not with sorrow, with longing. "With my child," she breathed. "My baby, my sweet girl." My mother felt her blood freeze. "Mary, no. I'm going to her," Mary said softly. "To make sure she's not alone. To take her where no one can hurt her." My mother took a step forward, reaching out. "Mary, wait, please, don't." But Mary was already turning away. Her voice drifted back, thin as river mist. "I'm going to hold her again." The street shook. The sky cracked open with a thunderless roar, and the world of the dream dissolved beneath my mother's feet. Suddenly she stood at the river's edge, the real river, its black surface rippling with moonlight. Cold wind stung her face. She watched, helpless, as Mary stepped onto the water's edge. Then Mary looked back one last time. "Tell them," she whispered. "It's not their fault." Then she slid into the Cumberland and began to swim, her thin arms cutting through the icy currents, her pale skin glowing faintly beneath the moon, her head lifting, sinking, lifting, sinking, as she made her way toward the far bank, toward Rockford Hollow, toward the child waiting in a small wooden house. My mother screamed her name, but the river swallowed the sound, and Mary kept swimming. The Cumberland River is slow, deep, old. It doesn't rage like western rivers or roar like mountain creeks. No, its danger is different. Silent, patient, the kind of river that can swallow a secret and keep it for generations. And that night, as Mary's pale shape slipped into its freezing waters, the river took her without a sound. My mother woke with a scream trapped in her throat. Her nightdress was clinging to her skin, soaked in sweat. Her hands were stiff, as if she had been reaching for something in the dark. The room felt smaller than usual, the shadows thicker, the air colder, cold enough that her breath fogged slightly in the lamplight. She sat up, clutching her chest. "Mary," she whispered. But the house was silent. Her husband and children slept peacefully in the next room. The world outside was still, save for the faint moan of a mountain wind drifting through the valley. She tried to convince herself it was only a dream, but her body knew better. Her bones felt heavy, her heart felt wrong, and the air carried a damp chill like the breath of river fog. Something had crossed over. Something had broken free. The next morning came gray and slow. The sky hung low over the hills, pressing down on the tiny mountain town like a weighted hand. My mother moved through the day in a fog, unable to shake the feeling that something terrible had already happened, just out of sight. She didn't need to wait long. Word spread through town before noon. A child, Mary's oldest daughter, only 3 years old, had not woken up from sleep. Just passed in the night, people whispered. Peaceful. No struggle. No sound. But mountain folk know the difference between peace and quiet. And quiet can mean something else entirely. The news hit my mother like a blow to the stomach. She felt her knees weaken. She had to sit down, gripping the edge of the table as if the room were tilting. Because she knew. She knew before anyone told her. Before any neighbor arrived with hushed voices. Before anyone wondered aloud why such tragedy kept circling one family. She had watched Mary cross the river. Watched her swim toward Rockford Hollow. Watched her vanish into the mist. And she had listened, helpless, as Mary whispered what she intended to do. To hold my child again, and take her where no one can hurt her. Grief thickened the air across the valley that day. People gathered in small circles, murmuring prayers. Others stood in doorways, shaking their heads, speaking the same word over and over. Tragic, tragic, tragic. But tragedy is something born of misfortune. This was something else. My mother didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't pray. She sat still, staring out the window at the line of maple trees trembling in the afternoon breeze. She remembered Mary's bruised face, her lash-marked skin, her trembling voice. They hurt me. They kept me there. I escaped. The preacher's ritual, the binding, the months of spiritual imprisonment. Mary had suffered, and the moment she broke free, she went straight to the only thing she still loved in the world, her child. As dusk settled over the Appalachian hills, my mother stood outside on the porch. The wooden boards creaked beneath her feet. The air carried scents of damp leaves and distant wood smoke. Somewhere far off, a dog barked, once, then fell silent. The silence that followed was wrong. Heavier, thicker, as if the whole valley was holding its breath. My mother whispered into the wind, "She's gone now, isn't she?" No voice answered, but something did move. A faint ripple, so soft she almost missed it, passed through the treetops, shaking the maple leaves like a sigh. It drifted across the yard, across the road, across the long stretch of mountain beyond. A presence, not threatening, not violent, just leaving. She realized it then. Mary was gone, truly gone, not lingering in the woods, not whispering across the river, not standing beside the old wooden bridge in the fog. Her purpose had been fulfilled, her chain broken, her final goodbye begun, and the valley, quiet, ancient, watchful, seemed to exhale. Yet that didn't mean everyone slept easy that night. My mother lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying the dream over and over. The bruises, the cries, the river, the promise. I'm going to hold her again. Those words echoed through her mind like footsteps across an empty hall. Sometime after midnight, she rose from bed and looked out the window toward the distant glow of Rockford Hollow. The river was invisible from that distance, but she imagined it anyway. Black, still, waiting. She remembered Mary's final swim, her fragile body cutting through the icy currents, her head bobbing in the moonlight. And my mother whispered, "Please, wherever you went, let it be better than here." People in the valley still spoke of the child's death for weeks, but no one mentioned Mary's spirit again. Not a sighting, not a whisper, not a single eerie story. It was as if she had vanished entirely. But my mother never doubted what happened, not for a moment, because she had seen Mary's final journey, and she knew the dead do not wander without purpose, especially the dead who died in sorrow, especially the dead who left children behind. In Appalachian country, the mountains remember everything. They remember the living who come and go. They remember the dead who refuse to leave. And they remember the stories people whisper, even when those stories are too heavy to speak aloud. After the child's passing, the valley moved quietly, like a wounded animal hiding its pain. People cooked meals for the grieving family. They brought flowers, prayers, blankets. No one talked about curses or spirits or the uncanny silence that had fallen over Rockford Hollow. Mountain folk aren't ignorant. They just know when to keep their mouths shut. But my mother, she carried the truth alone. The day after the little girl's burial, she crossed the long wooden bridge again, the same bridge she'd rushed across when Mary died, her heart pounding, her feet barely touching the planks. But this time she walked slowly, deliberately, feeling every creak beneath her boots, every sway in the boards, every cold gust rising from the black river below. The Cumberland moved lazily beneath her, its dark surface rippling with faint streaks of gray sky. But something felt different. The river seemed emptier, as if something that once lingered beneath its depths had finally departed. My mother paused at the bridge's midpoint and rested her hands on the railing. The wood was damp, cold, unusually cold. She whispered into the wind, "Mary, are you still here?" Silence. Only the slow churn of the river answered. Heavy, steady, ancient. She waited, half hoping, half fearing something might rise from the fog. A shape, a voice, a familiar hand reaching from the mist. But nothing came. The river had swallowed all it intended to swallow, and it was done. When my mother finally reached Rockford Hollow, the town felt hollowed out, as if the grief of one family had sunk into every porch, every yard, every window. Even the dogs were quiet. Even the wind seemed reluctant to blow. She didn't visit the grieving household. She knew anything she said would sound like madness. Instead, she walked past the cornfields, through the knee-high grass, until she reached the cabin, the same cabin where Mary had lived, cooked, laughed, cried, and died. The door was shut, the windows covered. The home looked empty, though she knew it wasn't. But my mother wasn't there for the living. She stepped onto the porch, slowly, the boards groaning beneath her weight. She imagined Mary lying on that long wooden bench, smiling in the first dream, hollow-eyed in the second, bruised and broken in the last. She touched the bench with the tips of her fingers, cold, still, silent. No trace of Mary remained, not even an echo. And for the first time since Mary's death, my mother felt something unexpected. Not fear, not confusion, but grief. Raw, deep grief. Because now she understood what had really happened. Mary had been bound, held prisoner by a ritual that sought to silence her spirit. Held not by malice, perhaps, but by fear. Fear that her wandering soul might cause harm. Fear that tragedy might spread. And in trying to control the dead, the living had made things worse. Mary had fought her way out. She had endured the darkness, the bindings, the lash-like pain of spiritual force. She had clawed her way back to the world she loved. Not for vengeance, not for chaos, but for love, for her baby. My mother sat down on the porch and let herself feel the weight of that truth. The cabin stood quiet behind her. The cornfield swayed gently in the mountain breeze, and the wide Tennessee sky stretched gray and endless above. After a long while, she whispered, "You weren't trying to hurt me, were you?" She remembered the first dream, Mary smiling, inviting. The second, Mary darkening, desperate, a spirit tangled between worlds. And the third, Mary broken, grieving, determined. My mother understood now. Mary wasn't trying to take her out of malice. She was reaching out blindly, lost, terrified, seeking any hand in the darkness. But once she remembered who she was, once she escaped the spiritual prison, they were no longer the same kind of encounters. She no longer clawed for companionship. She clawed for her child. And when she found her, she left. My mother stayed on the porch until the sun dipped behind the hills. The shadows stretched long across the valley, crawling up the sides of the cabin like slow fingers. The air grew colder. A single owl called from the tree-line, and in that hushed moment, my mother felt something pass by her. Not a figure, not a voice, just a soft shift of air, a gentle sense of presence, like someone walking past, finally at peace. It brushed her shoulder, light as fog, fleeting as breath. Then it was gone, and the night settled around her like a blanket. She walked home in the dark, crossing the wooden bridge one last time. This time the boards didn't creak. The river didn't stir. The fog didn't rise. Everything was still, as if the valley itself had closed its eyes. And from that night forward, no one ever saw Mary again. Not in dreams, not in shadows, not in the whispering dark of the Appalachian forests. Whatever bound her, whatever freed her, whatever she crossed the river for, it was finished. But the mountains never forget. And neither did my mother. The night before it happened, your mother said she woke up with the sharpest jolt she had felt in years, as if someone had shaken her shoulder hard enough to rattle bone. The room was dark, the old trailer silent except for the creaking of the wind pushing along the walls. At first, she thought it was just a bad dream. But then, she smelled river water, cold, metallic, exactly like the Cumberland on winter nights, when fog rolled through the lowlands and left the whole valley shivering. She sat up slowly, and saw her, Mary, standing at the foot of the bed. But not the Mary from the first dreams, the friendly Mary who laughed, who begged her to come along, who reached out like a childhood friend wanting company. No, this Mary was gaunt, bones showing, skin pale and tight across her jaw, bruised in sickly purples and grays. Her hair hung in stringy clumps as if soaked in cold mud. Her shoulders were welted with long, dark lash marks. And she was naked, not out of shame, but out of abandonment, like someone thrown aside, forgotten. She trembled as she stood there, not from cold, but from grief. Your mother tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Mary. Mary didn't step forward. She didn't smile. She just looked at your mother with eyes drowned in misery. Then she whispered, a hoarse, ragged whisper scraped from a throat that had swallowed death. I'm sorry. For last time. Your mother felt her blood freeze. Mary took a shaking breath. They bound me, kept me from leaving, kept me from remembering, kept me from touching the living world. She lifted an arm, and your mother saw the bruises circling around her wrist, dark, swollen, almost glowing beneath the pale flesh. I tried to pull you with me, because I was lost. I didn't know I was dead. She lowered her head, voice cracking. I didn't mean to hurt you. Your mother whispered. Mary, please don't. I can't see you like this. Mary shuddered, then looked up, and for the first time in any dream, tears rolled down her face. Real tears. Heavy, dark. They left long tracks on her hollow cheeks. I want my children. Your mother felt the air shift, something pulling at the room, like gravity tilting sideways. I miss them. Every breath of mine aches for them. She stepped closer. They're on the other side of the river. He won't let me near them. He thinks I'm dangerous. He thinks my presence will scare them. She swallowed, or tried to, but I won't hurt my babies. They're all I had. Your mother shook her head slowly, the blankets gripping her legs like cold vines. Mary, what are you going to do? Mary looked toward the window. Fog was forming outside, thick, heavy fog rolling over the yard even though summer hadn't ended. I escaped tonight, she whispered. I slipped through what they tied around me. It hurt. God, it hurt so much. She clutched her ribs as if holding herself together. I only have one night, one chance. Your mother's voice broke. Mary, please don't take anyone with you. Don't take me. Don't take anyone you love. Mary stepped close enough that your mother felt the temperature drop to freezing. I'm not here for you, she murmured. I just wanted to say goodbye. Your mother exhaled, a slow, trembling relief, until Mary added, I'm here for my daughter. The room tightened. Even the darkness seemed to recoil. Your mother felt the breath leave her lungs. Mary, the baby? The 10-day-old? Mary shook her head slowly. No, she's safe. Her soul's still wrapped in the light. She paused. I'm here for my older girl, the 3-year-old. Your mother felt sick. Mary, no, don't do this. She's a child. But Mary cut her off with a whisper so soft it felt like mist in the ear. She cries for me every night. She doesn't understand why Mama stopped coming. I hear her calling me, and I'm her mother. I'm supposed to go when she calls. Your mother shook, tears rising. Mary, if you take her, she won't come back. You know that. Mary nodded once. I won't let her be alone. Not like I was. There was a long, unbearable silence. Then Mary stepped backward, toward the window, toward the fog gathering thick as wool. She whispered, I'm going now, to cross the river. Your mother reached out helplessly. Mary, please. Mary stepped onto the windowsill. Fog coiled around her ankles like hands welcoming her home. Thank you for loving me when we were girls, she whispered. Tell them I wasn't a monster. Then she vanished, slipping backward into the fog, falling without making a sound. The next morning, the whole town woke to screaming from Rockford Hollow. Mary's 3-year-old daughter had been found in bed, lying perfectly still, as if sleeping. But she would never wake again. And from that day on, no one, not a hunter, not a traveler, not a preacher, ever saw Mary Vance's spirit again. She had taken what she came for, and she had crossed the river.